Namaste, ninja nerds. This is Navinad, the budget pub stomper, here to talk to you today about Yuriko the Tiger Shadow. If you've been watching my series, you've heard me talk about the girl, but I've not really done a deck tech or gone into any like deep kind of detail about her. So I thought it would be a good time to do that. Also, I had a buddy of mine who said, he thought it would be helpful to do a video deck tech on a deck that doesn't necessarily have to use combos or like convoluted win lines to end the game. And I think there are some options to do that. Like in cEdh, like fully cEdh, most of the time, even if you're playing a deck that tends to win without a combo, they still put combos in their decks, and I would still put my like. I don't play a lot of the win countless Stax decks or like Winota or even Yuriko and cEdh, but players that do will often win the game without comboing, but they still do play combos in the deck. But I think if we're playing at a $100 budget, it can be perfectly justifiable to not have a combo kill or a convoluted win line. And I think Yuriko is a really good deck to kind of be the example of a very powerful deck that does not need to rely on combos. Now, for full disclosure, I actually did have combos in this deck, and I took them out for the purpose of this video, but I'd built this $100 budget Yuriko deck a long time ago, like a year ago, and it wasn't updated with some of the new toys, and it also had crept up to $150. And so taking out, Doomsday, Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, it's not just, to intentionally not have a plus B combo just to not have one, but it actually, I think, is a justifiable thing to do on a $100 budget. I mean, you really don't need it. So most of the time when I do these deck techs, I talk about, why would we use the commander first and foremost? Like, what's special about this commander? And you may have noticed, if you've seen it, that I hold Yuriko in very high regard. At $100 budget competitive decks, I think she is one of the top 5 decks in the quote sub format. This is a deck that is not at all hard to convert from a casual deck to a competitive deck. But I want to talk about some of the reasons why I think, first of all, Yuriko functions so well at $100 and why she's so competitive, and particularly why she's so competitive in this exact space. So if you've seen my videos, you know kind of you probably know the kind of the things I'm looking for in a commander, and kind of top amongst them is going to be, I want some kind of an engine. I want the commander to be able to cheat mana, because in cEdh, and even, well, I would just say in commander, the bottleneck is often mana, is usually mana. That's like the biggest struggle, and it's never more the case than in exactly budget competitive, because one of the main things you lose when you go down into budget, like a $100 budget, is you're going to lose the fast mana, the spendy mana rocks, and then you're going to lose a lot of the free interaction that you'd like to play. And Yuriko does have some ability to, well, how do I want to say it? She sort of skirts the need to have all the expensive fast mana in your deck. And Yuriko skirts commander tax. She doesn't even need the colorless mana in her cast cost. Most of the time you're going to be getting her into play for 1 blue and 1 black mana. Which doesn't, like Soul Ring doesn't help you do that. Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, they don't help you do that. And even though you do have a high converted mana cost on average in the deck, a good chunk of the high-end stuff, actually you're going to cost it, or you're going to cast it for an alternate cost. That's sort of one of the tricks to the deck. So what other things do we look for in a commander? Well, I've always said we like to have a value engine in the command zone, and that really means like card draw or mana production. And we have a very, Yuriko is a nasty value engine. You can just very consistently get this engine up and running on turn 2, and then you're just rolling in cards. You're often going to discard with, you're ending your turn with 10 cards in hand, very often. Then the other things I'm looking for is a combo piece in the command zone, right? But I don't think it actually, maybe that's not even the right way to say it. It doesn't have to be a combo piece. What we really want in the command zone is we want a win condition in the command zone, and where Yuriko can kind of be a combo enabler if you're playing Doomsday. So what else? So we have something that helps us cheat mana, which is like aces. We have a commander that is in good colors, and it's like low colors. And Dimir's very good colors. It's 2 colors, which is kind of like maybe the sweet spot for $100 budget, in my opinion. And also, kind of a thing I haven't mentioned about Dimir, or even choosing your color combination in budget competitive, or when you're trying to build the most powerful deck you can on a budget. Right now, Dimir has access to like a very good number of very good dual lands. Like when you're playing 10 swamps, Tainted Isle is perfectly serviceable. We have Underground River at $1.58, Drowned Catacomb at 70 cents. I mean, there's like, we've got some good options here. River of Tears is 6 pennies. These are Sunken Hollow, 11 cents. Like, the deck just isn't that expensive to build, so I was able to do some splurgy things. But you could pretty easily cut that Clearwater Pathway, cut this Lotus Petal, and cut like Diabolic Intent, and put some really good cards in their place, and knock this thing down to like $75, no problem. But this is the way that I chose to build it at $100. Now so we've got a win condition. It's not a combo piece, but a win condition in the command zone. And make no mistake, Yuriko will make the entire table very, very dead in short order if she's allowed to get going, and it's pretty hard to stop her from getting going. So you've got a way to cheat mana. You've got a value engine. You've got a win condition. You're in good low colors, and you have just a generically powerful commander. The other big thing that helps to look for when you're building on a budget, and I've said this a lot, but I'll say it here, it's great if you can find a commander that incentivizes you to play otherwise rarely used cards. Like, not that many other decks in Commander are like really, really hype on playing Ginger Brute, right? Hence the 11-cent price tag. Oddly, it does see play in it. It's got a couple homes, but there's not a lot of people like trying to get their hands on a good old lurker, right? But it's great here. It can't be blocked. Changeling Outcast, 31 cents. All-Star in the deck. This does everything you want to do in the deck. And so on, right? We've got a bunch of those kinds of options. So we're in good colors. We have a good commander that checks most of the boxes for us. So let's talk about the strategy. And there are different ways to take the deck. You can do the Doomsday Thoracle, or maybe do Doomsday Lab Man at $100. You can do that. You can just do like super turns, like burn-in turns kinds of decks. And if you're playing a more casual Yuriko, you might already be doing that, and it wouldn't take much to power that up or budgetize it down depending on what you're looking to do. Because not only is this video series and this channel trying to give people ideas and teach you how to go to the local game store without having to spend a fortune and be able to rival the most powerful decks there. I mean, really, I think these decks will do. I mean, I think they absolutely will do that. I know they will because I've done it. But also, I like just when $100 budget competitive tournaments come up, I think it's like a really fun way to play the format, or it's like a sub format, but it's really great. And I think in my next video, I might talk about exactly why you might want to try to organize a budget cEdh league. But if you're playing, for whatever reason, a budget deck that you want to make as competitive as possible, I think Yuriko is like top 5. Like I said, it just checks all the boxes. So let's get into what we're doing with this build. Like I said, there's lots of ways you could build the deck. The way I've decided to build this deck is to go into like a more Staxy, control-y kind of tempo deck. Like in some formats, if you're playing a tempo deck, I don't know if Delver is still a thing, but there's Delver-like cards. In a lot of formats, you're going to play like put out your undercosted evasive threat, and then you're going to slow down your opponents and protect your threat and ride that one like Delver of Secrets or Murktide Regent to victory, right? How are we going to do that? Well, the first thing I wanted to do to kind of accomplish the goal and differentiate this deck a little bit from your run-of-the-mill casual Yuriko list is put some Stax pieces in. So the Stax pieces that we're going with, Cursed Totem, it's just so good in cEdh, but I actually think it's even better in budget cEdh. I mean, dorks are everywhere, right? Dorks are everywhere, period, but mana dorks don't work with Cursed Totem out. It shuts off Marwyn, it shuts off Kiki-Jiki combos. It shuts down so many things. Like basically any commander that has an activated ability, like Kinnan is so good at a budget, right? But it's not so good when Cursed Totem's in play. I mean, it still isn't that bad, but it really, Cursed Totem really will slow Kinnan down. Make it hard to win the game anyway. So, and it doesn't affect us, and that might seem strange because we're playing a bunch of creatures with abilities, but according to the rules of the game, ninjutsu is not an activated ability on a creature. It's like an ability on a card. It's more like channel or something. It's not a creature ability because it's not a creature when you're doing it, I guess, is the way to look at it. So 100% fact, you can definitely use ninjutsu with Cursed Totem in play. In fact, I don't think we have any cards that are shut down by Cursed Totem. And Cursed Totem, again, is just like a death knell to so many decks and so many strategies. Grafdigger's Cage is probably the other most damning Stax piece in cEdh, and I mean right up there with Collector Roof, certainly the most damning one we can play. And it's really, really good against the best decks in budget or high power, like budget cEdh or high power. Again, like Kinnan can't do its Kinnan flips. Any green deck can't use its tutor to the battlefield tutors. Magda can't do Magda things. Winota cannot do Winota things. Like in high power casual, Winota's crazy good, right? In budget competitive, I've got Magda as one of the top 5 decks you could play. Grafdigger's Cage shuts them down. I've recently figured out Golgari Hulk is really good at a budget. Like it's very easy to assemble a very effective Golgari Hulk deck for $100, and that doesn't work very good with Grafdigger's Cage in play. So this is another one that we totally break parity on. I mean, if somebody's able to put together a budget Breach deck, which I think is probably possible, maybe. It'd be a little tough, but you could do it. But Breach doesn't work with Grafdigger's Cage. You can't reanimate Razakath. You can't reanimate anything. Hulk, you can't do it. You can't search out pieces for, even if they're able to hardcast Hulk and they can sacrifice Hulk. Wait, would that stop them? Creature cards can't enter the battlefield from graveyards or libraries. Yes, it does. So it just shits on Hulk, shits on dwarfs, these pieces shit on everything. So the other things that shit on the most powerful things that people are doing right now would be card draw hate, like Narset Parter Avails at a whopping 89 cents. So we've also got Narset or Notion Thief, right? So kind of just a better version of the same thing. It hates out the decks that are trying to stick a value engine, or they have a card draw engine, or they have a card draw engine in the command zone. It really hurts those decks bad. Yes, Notion Thief is fragile. You can take it out with a point of damage, but I think the fact that you can play it at instant speed makes that a lot more reliable, or makes the card more reliable, despite the fact that it is easy to kill, because you can hold up interaction until the very last minute, and as soon as somebody casts some crazy draw spell or triggers some kind of engine 5 times, you can flash it in and get your value for it, so that even if it dies, it still did something. But one of the big things we're going to do with these two pieces in this deck is we're going to kind of combo. I mean, it's not like an A plus B win the game combo, but it is an A plus B. We've got 2 A's and 2 B's that are interchangeable, and they are A plus B. Put yourself in a commanding position where the game is yours to lose kind of combos. And that would be Narset or Notion Thief paired up with Whispering Madness or Windfall. So basically we cast, At the end of the last turn, right before our turn, before we untap, we flash in Notion Thief, which says if an opponent would draw a card except the first one in their turn, you draw that card instead. So somebody casts even a Brainstorm, right? Flash it in, and they have to still put their cards on top of the deck, but you get to draw their 3 cards. But the way we want to use this ideally is we flash it in right before our untap, and then we cast Whispering Madness or Windfall. And for reasons that'll become clear as we move through the rest of the deck, Whispering Madness is bonkers in this deck. The Cipher actually comes up in this list because you have all the evasive creatures. But either way, if somebody has, say, 5-6 cards in hand, even if somebody has a full grip, and you may well have a full grip, when you cast Windfall with a Notion Thief in play, everybody discards their hand, and then you're drawing everybody's cards. Like, you draw 28 cards. Like, they go Hellbent, you draw 28 cards, and it's like, good luck, right? Good luck from there. Yeah, so Notion Thief or Narset, kind of quasi-combo with Whispering Madness or Windfall. But the nice thing is, Narset and Notion Thief are pretty good Stax pieces on their own, and Windfall and Whispering Madness are perfectly good cards on their own also. So it's not like you're playing dead cards to get this quasi combo going. So yeah, Yuriko. Back to Yuriko. So it's a 1/3 for 3, but it's not, because you're going to pay 2 mana for it. And it just says, whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand, and each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana value. So what that means is if you, Yuriko is a ninja, so if you use your commander ninjutsu, and if you don't know what that is, it just means you can, so let's say you're attacking with Changeling Outcast, which is the MVP of the deck. You swing with your Changeling Outcast, it's unblockable, so after blocks are declared and this thing isn't blocked, then you can use the special ability Commander Ninjutsu to pay a black and a blue to return Changeling Outcast to your hand and cheat Yuriko into play, having already attacked and dealt and is ready to deal damage. It has already attacked and not been blocked. So the idea is, flavor-wise, that actually Yuriko was dressed up like Changeling Outcast because she's a ninja, so she's like a master of disguise and infiltration, and then she goes like, peekaboo, take 8 damage, right? And I'm drawing this card. So this also works with other ninjas, so that's another reason Changeling Outcast is an MVP in the deck, is because Changeling Outcast is unblockable and is also a ninja. So when you have Changeling Outcast and Yuriko in play, if you swing and get through with both of them, then you're getting 2 ninja triggers, which is just, it starts to get, even just having 2 triggers a turn, it starts to get really crazy. That's the point where it starts to snowball, and you find more ninjas and more card draw and more advantage, and it gets ugly, gets crazy. But the overall idea of the deck is we're going to want to start off with a cheap evasive threat, and if it's a ninja, well, so much the better. Like, Thousand Face Shadow is one of the best pickups this deck got in a long time. It's just it's got like Flying Man text. It's a 1/1 flyer. But when it enters the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, you create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. The token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. So if you use that, it's basically a clone. Okay, let's just put it that way. It's a ninja clone. If you ninjutsu it in for 4, it's a ninja clone. And you can just use it as a 1/1 flyer that also triggers Yuriko because it's a ninja. It's so good in the deck. In fact, kind of F you Changeling. There's a new boss in town. Yeah, I actually think that the new ninjas, like Thousand Face Shadow, probably is better than Changeling Outcast in the deck. I mean, it's close. They're both busted. They're both so good in this deck. And see, that's the thing. They're not that good in other decks, and that's why you can pick them up for 65 cents, right? We also recently got Moon Circuit Hacker, which is if you just attack with it, it loots. But if you ninjutsu it in, you just straight up draw a card. So if you get this ninjutsu'd into play with Yuriko already on the board, you get a ninjutsu trigger, so you're going to Yuriko trigger for the Moon Circuit Hacker, and you're going to draw another card. And it only costs 1 to ninja this thing in, which is kind of crazy. Prosperous Thief is another great pickup. This is our Malcolm. For every ninja or rogue, and we actually do have rogues in the deck and changelings, whenever you hit somebody, a player, with one of those things, you make a treasure token. It's Malcolm for ninjas and rogues. Very, very good. Also a ninja, also triggers Yuriko. So we want to be able to get our evasive guys down cheap. Our Ornithopters. Ornithopter's actually really good in this deck. 9 cents, right? Get these out on turn 1. Get at least one of these dudes down on turn 1 every game. That's what you're mulling for. You're mulling for turn 1 evasive threat into turn 2 Yuriko. And you're just going to start going from there. Not hard to do. And then you're going to want payoffs for that. And I guess the payoffs for that kind of strategy are the big CMC cards. So we've got a ton of big bomby 5 mana, 7 mana, 8 mana cards. A lot of them we can cheat the mana cost. Like, we don't actually have to pay 7 mana for Commandeer. Instead, somebody casts a spell and you just steal it with Commandeer by discarding 2 blue cards, or exiling 2 blue cards that you were going to discard at the end of the card anyway. So basically, we want cards that are going to have a high converted mana cost, but that you're not actually going to have to spend a lot of mana casting, like Misdirection. It's our little kind of budget force of will. Dig Through Time. You can delve away a bunch of cards in your graveyard and pay 2 mana, but they're going to take 8. They're going to get bonked for 8 when you ninjutsu it off the top. When you ninja Dark Petition, it's going to be 5 damage to each opponent. But you're drawing so many cards, you're casting so many things, you're using cantrips, you're using spot removal, you're using counter spells, and you're going to discard a good chunk of the time with like 9 cards. So you have to discard 2 cards. Hitting Spell Mastery is simple in this deck. So most of the time when you actually cast Dark Petition, it effectively costs 2 mana, which is kind of like Demonic Tutor. But it's better in the sense that it hits them for 5, where Demonic Tutor would only hit them for 2 off of a ninja trigger. And it can kind of color fix. Like, there are times when the fact that you're paying 5 mana, but you're getting back black, 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 it gives you an extra black pip to work with, which definitely can come up in the deck. We've got ways to manipulate the top of our deck, and we've got extra turns. I mean, if you just play a land on turn 1, play your evasive guy, play a land on turn 2, you are already casting your value engine, your win condition, your main strategy is already up and running on turn 2 with 0 fast mana. In fact, I only play 1 2-mana rock in the deck because you just don't need them. I like Diabolic Intent in the deck because it allows you to sacrifice Yuriko. Sometimes you get in a board stall where you're not able to get through. You can't punch somebody with Yuriko because it doesn't have evasion on its own. And so having the ability to pop it back to your hand or put it back in the command zone can be a plus side instead of a downside. That's also why we're running that weird counter spell. Did I take that out? No, Familiar's Ruse. So you can do kind of the same thing here. Counter somebody's thing and bounce your Yuriko to hand so that when you attack, you're able to attack with an evasive dude and cheat your Yuriko into play, getting your triggers. So a lot of the 2-mana things, I just saw this 2-mana, when I say, so a lot of the 2-mana tutors, they might look like out of place, like we're not playing Thassa's Oracle, we're not playing Tainted Pact, right? So what are we actually using the 2-mana tutors? Well, first of all, transmute cards are just kind of good when you're playing on a budget. But we actually do have some key cards that might not jump out as key cards at 2 mana. We already talked about Cursed Totem, which I would definitely count. But we also have this guy here. It's like if you get Tetsuko Umezawa into play, like it is really like now you've just got everything, right? If you can protect this thing, and it is worth protecting, all of your ninjas are gonna get through. Your Yuriko is gonna get through. All of your things are triggering, and like, you know, draw 5 cards per combat, and deal, you know, however much damage to each opponent every combat, and just try to lose the game. Not easy, you know. It really isn't easy at that point. So, yep, we want to go early game, play evasive beater, turn 2, hopefully get Yuriko into play, and then start churning through our deck, doming our opponents, dropping Stax pieces, playing control, protecting our stuff, and then hopefully we can either set up like a Whispering Madness with Narset Parter Avails, or, you know, something like that. Let's talk about the Lorien Revealed. Now obviously this is just a 5 mana card that you're really going to pay 1 mana to use. Same with the Troll. I've got the Troll in here. The Troll will dome your opponents for 6, but it's only going to cost you 1 to use it. But for sure, the other one's more important. Lorien Revealed is just it's just a decent card. It's very good with our strategy, but it can also grab Mystic Sanctuary that's coming in at a whopping 76 cents, right? And what we can do with Mystic Sanctuary, first of all, if we just have a huge bomb spell in our graveyard, we can play the Mystic Sanctuary, put it on the top of our deck, and then we know that when we get through for combat damage and get an ninjutsu trigger, we're going to be dealing like nasty damage. Like maybe we've got Dig Through Time in the bin, then we can play the so, you know, a lot of times that's what you're doing. You're using Mystic Sanctuary to put a big bomb spell on top of your deck, and then smacking people for a ton of damage. But another thing that's it's really in the deck for, and why Lorien Revealed is turns out to be a really good card in the deck, is Walk the Aeons doesn't exile itself. Now the other, like, extra turn spells are just good with Yuriko because you're getting all those damage triggers again. All of your ninjutsu triggers happen again. So extra turns are just like, the extra combat part is more important in this deck than another deck, so it's easily worth paying 6 mana for. With Karn's Temporal Sundering, we can bounce Yuriko back to our hand if we don't have a piece that we really need to get rid of on our opponent's boards. We can bounce Yuriko and do that thing. But Karn's Temporal Sundering exiles itself, which isn't great because we want to be able to loop turn spells. So the way, not loop, but we can recast our extra turn spells. There are ways to loop. We could do that. But here in this deck, most of the time what we're going to be doing with Lorien Revealed is hopefully we have a Walk the Aeons. We cast it. We take our extra turn. And before we deal a bunch of damage, we cast Lorien Revealed to find our island. Island being Mystic Sanctuary. We play our Mystic Sanctuary. We put Walk the Aeons on top of our deck. We attack. We deal damage. We get a big 6 damage hit off of the Walk the Aeons, and then we cast our extra turn spell again. A lot of times that just closes out the game. What else? Anything else we want to talk about? Yeah, I might do another part to this. I mean, I'm gonna do another part to this video just to go through hands. But I might do another. I may do a whole other video on cards that you might want to look into once you've played the deck a bit and are getting familiar with it. Time Warp is another one that you could take out Lotus Petal and put in Time Warp, and I don't think that would be a bad idea at all. There's other ways you can manipulate the top of your deck that might be worth looking into. So there's like I said, a lot of ways to go. I think this is kind of the middle of the road version with a little bit of that Navinad spice that you've come to expect and enjoy and appreciate. So I think that's going to do it for this video, and then we'll do part 2 where we'll go into some starting hands and mulligans, etc. Until then, though, word to your collective mothers, may the force be with you. Assalamu alaikum, is that how you say it? God bless, peace be with you and also with you. And namaste, my ninja homies.